Hey guys, this is Allie Peak with a peek inside Gators football. I'm doing something different today. I know the Gators were off, but as somebody that loves college football, I don't know how I could have a platform like this and not talk about the game of the year yesterday between Alabama and Georgia. So I'm not going to tie this to the Gators at all. This has nothing to do with UF. If it doesn't interest you because you only want UF content, that's okay. But if you could hit the like button on your way out, that would be cool. But if you care about college football and the instant classic that we watched yesterday, let's talk about it. Okay, so last night, kind of a tale of two halves. It started differently than I think anybody could have predicted. I absolutely did not see the first half domination that we saw coming at all. Alabama came out just on fire. Jalen Milroe looked like the best player in the country, and Georgia looked like they forgot how to tackle. Now, the Bulldogs have won 42 straight regular season games, and the last time they lost in the regular season was to UF, and Dan Mullen was still our head coach. But so they fell behind 30-7 going into halftime. Carson Beck looked scared and lost. I don't know if you guys were paying as close attention to him as I was, but he looked so uncomfortable. There was a camera shot where they showed where his hand was actually shaking. He was staring down his receivers. It was like he made poor decision after poor decision. He could not right the ship. And, they go into the half, and is there anybody that makes better halftime adjustments than Kirby Smart? Carson Beck looked like a different quarterback in the second half. He finished with a career-high 439 yards, but he did also commit 4 turnovers, which were incredibly costly for the Dogs. Alabama helped Georgia out, I think, a little bit in the second half by playing really conservative to start. They probably shouldn't have done that. I would assume that's a miscalculation on their part. I think that's something that they'll probably talk about this week about how to not do that moving forward. But I don't want to take away from the Bulldogs. They rallied from a 23-point deficit at halftime. At one point, they were down by 28 points in the first half and took their first lead of the game with only 2 minutes and 31 seconds left in the fourth quarter. 67-yard touchdown pass from Carson Beck to Dylan Bell to make it 34-33. I don't know about you guys. I was watching this having a heart attack. I don't even have a dog in this fight. I kind of hope Georgia always goes to hell. So if I was rooting for somebody, maybe it was Alabama, but a missile to just hit the stadium would probably have been my first inclination there. But crazy game. Alabama goes and scores on the very next play from the line of scrimmage. Their own 25, Jalen Milroe threw a deep ball down the right sideline to freshman Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams, part speed demon, part ballerina, right? Spun out of a tackle and then beat the remaining Bulldog secondary for a 75-yard touchdown. At this point, then there's 2 minutes and 18 seconds remaining in this game. And honestly, I was thinking, that's a little bit too much time. Georgia might score again the way that this game had gone. Milroe did add the 2-point conversion to give Alabama the 41-34 lead, which did end up being the final. Jalen Milroe completed 27 of 33 passes for 374 yards and 2 touchdowns in the air. But then he also ran for 117 yards and 2 more scores. He is the first person in FBS history with 300 passing yards, 100 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns against an AP top 5. This is according to research by ESPN. Listen, freak performance, right? I don't know how you don't watch that game and think that Milroe is the best player in the country. I don't know. Maybe Ryan Williams has something to say about that, though. The freshman has 6 catches for 177 yards and a touchdown. Carson Beck throws an interception. How could this game end any other way than on a Carson Beck interception? On the very next series, though, when they got that ball back to seal the victory for the Tide. This loss ends Georgia's 42-game regular season winning streak, which was the longest in college football since Oklahoma won 45 from 1953 to 1957. So very long time ago. Also ends Georgia's 16-game winning streak on the road. Different coach, right? Nick Saban retired. Same team. Kalen DeBoer's first game against Georgia, first SEC game. Alabama has no problems with Georgia, though, regardless of who their head coach is, right? They have won 9 of the past 10 against the Bulldogs. Kirby Smart is now 1-6 against Alabama as the head coach of Georgia. Different coach, same team. So I think this game showed us a few things, though. And, I think it says something about maybe college football as a whole a little bit. The first thing that I took away from this, the biggest takeaway, is that high school recruiting is still king in college football. Both of these teams are led by guys who sign with their respective schools out of high school. Game-winning touchdown was caught by freshman Ryan Williams. Then the game was sealed by an interception caught by freshman Xavier Brown. These programs use the portal as like seasoning on a really good steak, right? Sprinkles on top of the sundae. They don't use the portal to build the sundae, to find the steak, right? And I think that their methods are what is most successful in college football. I think that we can look at what's going on at Florida State right now, which was the exact opposite, right? Not particularly good high school recruiting, average to maybe even below average high school recruiting. But Norvell has done a great job in the transfer portal, or at least so we thought, a great job in the transfer portal. And I think we saw what happened last season with what ended up being a great transfer portal class. And then we're seeing what's happening right now where they're sitting at 1-4 because they didn't have as successful as a transfer portal class. You cannot find sustained success without solid high school recruiting. And I think that this game is just evidence of that. I think something else we learned from this is that maybe the world didn't end when Nick Saban retired, right? Maybe he left a well-oiled machine and Alabama picked the perfect replacement in Kalen DeBoer. And does anybody really believe at this point in time that Mike Norvell was really ever in the conversation for the head coaching job at Alabama? Because I have my doubts. I just think we watched 2 of the premier programs in college football, 2 of the top teams, and I look at who else is going to be ranked in this top 5 when it gets released later on today. And it's hard to see who's going to give them too much of a challenge. I think Texas, I think Tennessee, and I think maybe Ohio State. But outside of those programs, I think there's a huge step down before the next group of teams that will make, this playoff. So I don't know. This may be just round 1 of multiple times we watch Georgia and Alabama this season. There's a great chance we watch them in the SEC championship game. Could catch them in the playoffs. Could catch them in the SEC championship game and the playoffs. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch, but what a fun college football game. Really stress-free for the Gators because we had a bye, so there was nothing we had to worry about. As a Gator fan, it is a pretty great Sunday when you wake up to Georgia and Florida State both having lost. But our bye week is over, and now it is UCF week. We've got a lot of great interviews and content coming your way, so make sure that you are dialed into this channel. And as always, go Gators.